just so wonderful to see so many people here. So thank you so much. Yeah, round of applause. Well done. Thank you. And I hope you all got a raffle ticket. We are going to make this night worth your while. And we have some prizes to raffle off afterwards. So if you did not get a raffle ticket, I believe, yeah, I think Kathy Palmer is right over here, and then someone out front can get you a raffle ticket. We've got, yeah, raise your hand if you did not get a raffle ticket, and we'll make sure, oh, in the back.
There.
Just put your hand up and keep it up, and we'll make sure you get a raffle ticket. Wonderful. Well, thank you again for coming. I am Cindy Gaylord, and we would like to welcome you to First Congregational Church. We're so thrilled that we had to change the venue for our lectures because of large turnout. I told you, if you've been here before, I've told you a little bit about the history of the church, but I'd like to start with really the history of Westfield tonight. 350 years ago, actually a little bit more than that, 13 men were given grants to plots of land in an area called Orinoco by the Native Americans in the area. It later would be called Streamfield, and then eventually, in 1669, Westfield. So these 13 men were really the pioneers. They built their homes here, their families here, and soon more people were joining them. The understanding when they were given the grant to start Westfield was that they had to start a church within 2 years. They had to have a church and a settled pastor. So that was the beginning of First Church, which has been here ever since, and we're very proud of the history of this church. There is a flyer in the pews where you're sitting if you'd like to know more about the church too. This is the 4th building that we've had since the beginning. The first one looked like the replica that's at the Stanley Park today, and each time the building became a little bigger before we finally had this building. I have a few notes tonight that I wanted to tell you about. This is the last lecture here for a few weeks. The next lecture will be up at Westfield State College, and it will be on February 13th. And that venue has been changed also to Dever Auditorium, again because of the numbers. I think you'll find very comfortable seating there, so we hope to see you there. And then also on the February 27th and March 6th. Where is Vanessa? Had the venue's been changed for all of them, or is it next to?
Check the Westfield News and the website for updates on that question.
She said to check the Westfield News and the 350th website for updates on where those will be. The next lecture is on the watershed wandering through time and space, the Westfield River Watershed Association. And I've heard it's very fascinating, so I hope you all can come to that. I will ask Candy to come introduce our speaker for tonight. But again, thank you so much for coming out. It truly is wonderful to see you all.
So I'm the lucky one that gets to introduce Ed Standard, our speaker tonight. And Ed has been a Civil War enthusiast since he was since childhood, and his involvement in company. Oh no, I'm not supposed to say company. His involvement in the 10th Mass Volunteer Regiment led to this talk about the Solomon brothers. So I think you're going to find it kind of interesting how they got all the way to Australia. Ed?
Thank you, Candy. A little bit, please. Back in 1997, I was contacted by email by Terry Phonander from Queensland, Australia. He wanted to know if I was familiar with the Tarson brothers who fought for the 10th Mass, Company K, and were buried in Australia. I did a quick search of the histories and could not find anybody by that name. So later on that year, as I was making out a new roster for Company K of 10th Mass, I came across the Solomon brothers, Henry and John. So I emailed back to Mr. Phonander and said, could these possibly be the people that you were referring to? And he said, yes, they were. and recommended that I get in touch with Major Roy Parker, United States Air Force retired. Major Parker was a driving force behind a group that located Civil War veterans' graves in Australia. He was assisted by Mr. Fonander, by Barry Crompton, and Bob Simpson. Since 1980, they have identified 300 American soldiers from the Civil War buried in Australia and 100 Australians who fought in the American Civil War. So we owe them a big thanks for taking care of our veterans. The Solomon family lived in Liverpool, England. They were a Jewish family. The father was Samuel Solomon, the mother was Jessie Levy. And Samuel was in the cigar business and evidently fairly prosperous. They had 9 children. 8 of the 9 children moved to America with them. And they wound up in New York by 1855, New York City. And our main characters will be Phineas, who was born in 1836, Henry, 1840, John, 1843. Joseph, though he is a major character in this tale, was never here in Westfield. Phineas married Amelia Adkins here in Westfield in 1859. They had 7 children. He became a naturalized citizen in 1861. Henry got married after the war in New York City to Margaret Boardman. They had 2 daughters, Jessie, born in New York City, and Marcia Ann, born in Westfield. I don't know what happened with the marriage, but evidently they were divorced or separated or whatever, because they both remarried later on in life. I couldn't find any record of the divorce. John remained single while in Westfield. In 1860, the population of Westfield was 5,055, and the valuation was $2.8 million. April 12, 1861, South Carolina fired on Fort Sumter, which was the beginning of the American Civil War. President Lincoln called for troops to come south to protect the capital. Governor Andrew of Massachusetts sent the 6th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, and while they were marching through Baltimore to change trains, they were attacked by a secessionist mob, and 4 of the soldiers were killed and 12 civilians. This incensed the attack on the 6th Mass really riled up the people in Massachusetts much more than the firing on Fort Sumter. The very following day, there was a war meeting in Westfield, and Hiram Harrison was elected president. They had 3 vice presidents for some reason, and a secretary. They decided that they would meet again on the 29th of April, and they did. They voted to raise $10,000 to equip a militia company and to care for the soldiers' families. The company became Company K of the 10th Massachusetts Infantry. Henry and John both enlisted at that time. The city contributed pretty well to the war effort. They gave over $30,000 to aid the soldier families, and a total expenditure of $76,483, which amounts to about $2.1 billion in today's economy. There were 631 men credited to Westfield. That was 12.5% of the population, which if we kept that, would be about 5,000 people today. And they wound up having 53 more than the quota enlisted. June 14th, 1861, they marched out to Springfield. There was a big celebration, 2,000 people on the green, 150 horsemen led by Colonel Hazel Barr. They were mustered in to federal service on July 21st, 1861. 20 men from Westfield refused to, in a protest to a change Governor Andrew made in the position of first lieutenant. Thank you. The company had elected Pliny Wood over Andrew Campbell as first lieutenant. Militia companies elected their officers. But the governor gave the job to Andrew Campbell, and the men refused to take the oath, and they were backed up by the city fathers, who had another meeting and decided to write a letter to Governor Andrew protesting. Governor Andrew was a kind of a no-nonsense type of guy, and he sent back a letter reprimanding the city of Westfield and explaining to them exactly how officers were appointed. The 10th Mass left Springfield on July 16, 1861 for further training in Bedford at Camp Adams, which was the former property of John Quincy Adams. News of the Battle of Bull Run expedited their departure for the seat of the war. They steamed into Washington, D.C. on July 27th. They spent the first 2 nights, interestingly enough, bivouac in the Capitol building. Then they went to Calorama, which is northwest of the city, and thence to Brightwood, which is on 7th Street, where they were engaged in building Fort Massachusetts. Fort Massachusetts later became Fort Stevens, which is most well known as being the only place that Abraham Lincoln actually witnessed a battle of the war. On February 6th, Private Lewis Carter, Company K, was on guard duty. Private James Mitchell of the 7th Mass was returning from an unauthorized visit to the city. He tried to run the guard. Carter did his job and challenged him and shot him in the side. Unfortunately, Mitchell died at his Taunton home in April. The 10th Mass was brigaded with the 7th Mass, the 2nd Rhode Island, and the 36th New York. They were initially part of Key's 4th Corps. Later on in the war, they became more well known as being part of the 6th Corps. Henry Solomon enlisted as a private, but he was soon promoted to sergeant and appointed color sergeant. Color sergeant was a position of honor and usually given to a man because of his military bearing and courage. As a matter of fact, Medal of Honor recipient Leopold Karpels of the 57th Mass, said, "I'm aware that while I'm providing a rallying point and courage for my comrades, I'm also a prime target for the enemy. I vow to accept that risk when I assume this obligation, which I consider a privilege and honor." You can imagine in a battle with all the smoke from the old gunpowder laying low, a man carrying a flag 4 feet over his head and being the rallying place would be a good target. According to the Solomon family, Henry suffered a severe head wound at the Battle of Williamsburg. Military records don't support the claim. I can find no indication of that. The 10th was not engaged at Williamsburg. They were sent from place to place to shore up the line where needed, but they didn't fire a shot in anger. There is an apocryphal story of several soldiers of the 10th Mass purportedly finding a cannonball that they thought was spent and doing the smart thing that I would do is light a match and see if there's any powder. I don't know if that would good. That's probably not what happened here, but I'd like to think maybe it was. Anyway, Captain Newell in the regimental history, one of the regimental histories, said that on May 5th, 1862, which was the date of Williamsburg, said during the forced march, the color bearer gave out from exhaustion. Henry was sent to Cliffburn Hospital in Washington, D.C., and on August 20, 1862, he was discharged from the service for disability, suffering from rheumatism and phthisis pulmonalis, or tuberculosis. It's kind of doubtful that he had tuberculosis because he lived for a long time afterward. There's no mention of it. He did return to Westfield after the war. The Solomons moved Westfield, New York City. I believe they probably had homes in each place based on the businesses they were performing. They were selling cigars here, making cigars here, selling them in New York City, traveling back and forth. We now go on to John Solomon. This picture, by the way, is a drawing one of his nieces made for him during the war. John stayed a private for his whole 3 years in the service, so he wasn't really overly ambitious. It might not have been the best soldier because we find two instances where he was fined for violation of company rules. The first time in December of '62, he was fined $5 for violation of Regimental Order 10, and on March 1863, he had another court-martial and was fined a sum of $6.50. We have to remember $6.50 doesn't sound like much to us, but it was half a month pay to him. No. I've done the research. I can't find that at this point because that would be a regimental thing. Obviously, if he had violated a Union Army rule, it would be much more severe and would be a higher level of court. There were various levels of court martial. And this was just probably, as we get on, we'll find out he was a boxer and a fighter. And it was probably something along those lines. John was present with the 10th Mass until he was severely wounded in the left foot at Spotsylvania. He had 2 toes removed in the field hospital. The regiment didn't, their time was up in June of 1864, so he really didn't miss a whole lot of time, but he would not have been active at that point. He was discharged from service on July 1st, 1864 at Springfield for expiration of service, and he returned to Westfield. We'll talk a little bit about the battles of the 10th Mass. The first battle was Fair Oaks, Virginia. That was during McClellan's Peninsula Campaign. And Fair Oaks, or Seven Pines, is known by several names, as are most battles in the Civil War. The South called them one thing, the North called them another. Company K was on the extreme left, and they were out as skirmishers. They got driven back in. The 10th's position was very precarious. They had rebels on their left, in their front, and in their rear. They broke 4 times, reformed 4 times, and were able to extricate themselves. But there were 39 men killed and mortally wounded on the 500 engaged. There were 95 wounded and 2 captured. From there, and here comes the part I like, General McClellan performed his, my favorite term in military history, retrograde movement to a change of base, otherwise known as a retreat. But that's what he called it in his papers. After Fair Oaks, they were involved at Malvern Hill. Again, for some reason, Company K was out as skirmishers, where they were driven in, as their job is to stand there until they get overrun. They lost 13 men there. Second Fredericksburg, they lost 16 men. That was basically the Battle of Salem Church. Gettysburg, they only lost 1 man. They got to Gettysburg at 5 o'clock on the second day. And they arrived at Little Round Top and with the rest of the 6th Corps. And that was enough to dissuade Longstreet and have him call off his attack. They weren't really engaged. The next time they got in problems was in 1864 in the Battle of the Wilderness, where 30 men were killed. Now, again, you have to remember that this was not the full 1,000 regimental strength at this point in the war. Immediately after the Wilderness was Spotsylvania, where they lost another 26 men. Cold Harbor, they were in the second line and lost 4 men. And in Petersburg, they lost 1 man on the last day that they were in Virginia. They were also present at Yorktown, Williamsburg, 7 Days battles, Antietam, Fredericksburg in 62, Salem Heights, and Mine Run. This is a drawing of the Battle of the Muleshoe at Spotsylvania, which happened May 12th, 1864. It was a hand-to-hand fight. The 10th, the 10th was at the, at the Muleshoe, was right at the portion of the Muleshoe where a 23-inch tree was shot down by small arms fire. The stump from that tree is in the Smithsonian at this point. The casualties, May 5th to the 11th, just in Company K, killed were Jones, Robinson, Moore, and Spray. Gaddis was mortally wounded, Neff mortally wounded, Traynor mortally wounded, and we see John Solomon's name up there. I threw this up in case somebody had relatives that were there. And June 21st, they left City Point by ship for Washington. They took the trains to New York and finally up the Connecticut River to Hartford. On the 25th, they arrived in Springfield by train. There was a citywide celebration in Springfield. Men of Company K returned to Westfield, where there was another celebration. were mustered out, as I said, on July 1st by an Army officer. Again, you have to remember there was a volunteer Army and there was a regular Army. They had to be mustered out by a regular Army. We have here a picture of Captain Phineas Solomon, who is second from the left. He's seated. The gentleman has his elbow on his knee. He enrolled in March 5th of 1863 at New York City in the Westchester Light Infantry. Westchester Light Infantry was disbanded on the 18th of June of 63, and the men were mustered in to the 178th New York, and Company D, and Solomon was a second lieutenant. He was promoted to first lieutenant on August 12, 1864. He spent brief periods of time as both adjutant and then later as the regimental quartermaster. So they were using his skills as a businessman at that time. 178th New York was assigned to duty at Fairfax Seminary in Washington, D.C. until October. Phineas himself wound up under arrest on the 8th of January in 1864, although I haven't been able to find the reason or the duration. Couldn't have been anything too serious because in May he was placed in command of Company K for 3 months and transferred back to Company D. They were part of the 16th Corps, Army of Tennessee, and had duty at Eastport, Mississippi, Columbus, Kentucky, Fort Bellow, Tennessee, and Vicksburg, Mississippi. They participated in the Meridian Campaign, the Red River Campaign, the occupation of Alexandria, the Battle of Pleasant Hill, and the Battle of Nashville. They moved from New Orleans from February 6th to the 22nd, and on the 18th, while they were there, Phineas was again promoted, this time to captain. On April 10, 1866, he was mustered out with the rest of the regiment at Montgomery, Alabama. The regiment lost 18 enlisted men killed or mortally wounded, 2 officers, and 190 enlisted men who died from diseases. As you can see, they weren't really a fighting unit, as the 10th Mass was a part of the 300 fighting regiments of the Civil War. They were not used as such. And 190 men died from diseases. That was more apt to happen to those who went to the far south, as Louisiana and places like that, and contacted diseases that they weren't accustomed to. Phineas returned to Westfield and went back with the cigar business with his father and his brothers. He remained active in the Laughlin Guards militia out of Springfield. He was commander of Lion Post 41 of the GAR here in Westfield. And like some of the larger posts, Lion Post 41 met twice a month. So they were very active. He was a trustee of the Warren Savings Bank, a Republican Party representative to the 1876 presidential elections. He had business interests in New York City and Rochester, New York, and owned a successful cigar store in South Bend, Indiana. He was president of the Cigar Makers Cooperative Association, wrote several articles for the West Hampton Times during the 1870s, and was a member of Mount Moriah Lodge, ancient Freedmen's of the Masons. We now move on to Australia. Joseph Solomon, one of the brothers, the one who did not live in Westfield, as a 16-year-old, sailed before the mast and jumped ship in Victoria, Australia. Family history has it that he deserted ship by hiding in an offloaded water cask. He assumed the name of Thompson. There's various family stories about why that transpired, but more than likely it was the anti-Semitic atmosphere in Australia at the time. He went to what they call the gold diggings at Ballarat. Australia had several gold rushes during this period. And here's a little picture drawing of the gold diggings at Ararat in 1854, which is about the time he jumped ship. Here's the largest gold nugget found in Victoria. It's 173 pounds. So there was gold in Australia. Joseph didn't find it. So he turned around and looked back to England. When he got back, he found out that his family had moved to America. So he got back on another boat, went back to Australia, and worked in gold fields, Ballarat, Ararat, and Pleasant Creek. While there, he became active in horse racing and making book, which made him very wealthy. He was known as the Leviathan of the continent, or the Leviathan of the ring being the gambling ring. He was noted for unscrupulous and shady dealings. A couple of the newspapers ran some articles about him discussing his tactics. And he took a little bit of a swing at one of them called the Argus. The Argus was a newspaper that wrote an expose on him. And he called his horse the Argus Skin. So it didn't really bother him too much, I guess. He also had a horse named Don Juan who won the Melbourne Cup in 1873. He took the winnings from that Melbourne Cup and built a house in Sydney called, strangely enough, the Don Juan House. And it was said to cost £20,000 to build the house. He moved back to London in 1888 and was a celebrity there. He claimed to spend 5 days at the racetrack during the week and 2 weeks on the continent celebrating his winnings. With his brother John, he successfully lobbied the Victorian government to pass legislation enforcing glove boxing according to Queensberry rules. Prior to this, this was all bare-knuckle boxing. He died March 3rd, 1909, while returning from a health trip to South Africa. He was survived by his wife, 3 daughters, and a son. He left an estate. He left an estate with a gross value of 23. He left an estate of 23,450 pounds, which doesn't sound like all that much in today's money, but according to the Australian government economists in 1907, 42 shillings or 2.1 pounds per week would support a worker, his wife, and 3 children. So he had a goodly amount. Solomons, except Phineas and Henry, moved to Melbourne in '68. Samuel continued the cigar business. John became a boxing promoter and trainer. He fought under the name of American Jack Thompson, which confused people because he wasn't American, he was English. Henry went to Australia in 1876 and became a turf commission agent, which sounds like a highfalutin government job, but it's actually a bookie with no money. He obviously was a runner, took the bets, brought them to his brother, and took a commission off of that. But it sounds fantastic. Henry in Australia, March 1878, he got remarried. again, I don't know what happened to his first wife, other than the fact that she remarried in Worcester in 1876, I believe. He was still in poor health, and John tried to get him a military pension. Family said that he never recuperated from the head injury at Williamsburg, which we don't know. In 1888, he was diagnosed with paralysis of the brain, or cerebral palsy, we call it today, and was admitted to Kew Lunatic Asylum at the age of 48. According to the inquest of his death, you say from the records of the asylum, I find that the deceased, Henry Thompson Solomon, was admitted on the ward now produced on the 16th of June, 88. He was then stated to be 48 years of age and to be in indifferent health. He was, upon admission, far advanced in general paralysis of the brain and was very violent and dangerous for some time. He soon broke down and became very helpless. He knew his visitors, his brothers and daughters that came to see him. He knew them except on the last occasion. Major Parker, in 1985, was able to get a bronze marker for his unmarked grave. He got it from the American Veterans Administration here in the United States. And they had a dedication ceremony to put it on his grave. 80 people were there, including a member of the U.S. Council, the Jewish Veterans Association, the American Legion, American Civil War Roundtable of Australia, and many descendants. And there's a picture of his marker and his now there. His brother John, right in Melbourne, and worked with Brother Joseph on promoting and bookmaking. They had another brother, Barney, who helped out too, but he wasn't here in Westfield. In August 1871, he lost a bare-knuckle match to John Christie. This was kind of unusual. It was for the New South Wales championship, bare-knuckle championship. And it only went 10 rounds, which is very unusual for them. Many of the fights would go 50, 60, 70 rounds. It was different than what we accustomed to now. Some wrestling moves were allowed, and there was no set time for rounds. The rounds only ended when one or the other was on the canvas, or more than likely board at that point. And there was a half minute between rounds. In 1874, John met and married Rachel Jones in Melbourne. They had 4 children. In 1883, Joseph returned to England. John moved with his family to Sydney. They moved a couple houses down from his father. And I'm sure John was busy with the cigar business also. Jim Mace, the world champion, bought a hotel in Melbourne from Joe Thompson. And in 1877, in March, Mace held a series of exhibition boxing with John Thompson. Now, I'm assuming at this point, since Jim Mace and American Jack Thompson were both proponents of the Marquis of Queensberry rules, that's how they were fighting with club hands. Also by the fact that they would fight 2 or 3 days in a row. They were just demonstrations. John trained many world-class boxers at Larry Foley's Iron Pit gym. Larry was another bare-knuckle world champion, or at least Australian champion, boxer. And he and John co-owned a hotel where the Iron Pit gym was located. And here we have Larry Foley on the left and American Jack Thompson on the right. Kind of similar to his brother. In March of 1887, Foley and Thompson put on a 4-round exhibition to benefit the widows and orphans from the Bully coal disaster earlier that month. There was an explosion in a coal mine, 80 men died. John died on April 13, 1890, of congestion of the lungs. He left an estate of 1,000 pounds in a life insurance policy, a substantial amount of shares in the Carrington Running Grounds, and also the Warwick Farm Racing Club, and some 4,000 pounds in the Bank of New South Wales. His funeral procession was said to be a mile long. They closed all the bars and many of the businesses in the city for his funeral. He was laid to rest in the family vault at Waverley Cemetery in Sydney. His obituary in the Referee sums up his athletic career and characteristics as, quote, with the frame of a gladiator, the strength of Hercules, the demeanor of a child, and a liberal hand, he did more in Australia than any other man for every department of sport. With a soul full of sport, it is not surprising that he should take to the ring, in which pursuit he was wonderfully fortunate. And his success meant everybody's whose friendship was worth having, or whose necessities required assistance, as his hand was never out of his pocket when a friend was in need, or a fatherless child or widow in want of succor. As an athlete, he had few equals, but while engaged amongst those who were taking part in sports, he always insisted upon straight and fair dealings, never countenancing a shady transaction. To what higher, end quote, to what higher praise could any man aspire? That's in direct opposition to his brother. John is laid to rest in the family vault at the Waverley Cemetery in Sydney. There's a picture of their vault. Here's Phineas Solomon Thompson in Australia, a little bit later in his life. He visited the brothers first, his other brothers first in 1874, and then returned to the United States and moved to South Bend, Indiana. He emigrated to Sydney in 1884. Interestingly, in 1880, his daughter Jessie married a Westfield barber named Stephen Sheldon, of whom the family disapproved. Jessie and Sheldon would later divorce in 1886. She went to Australia, remarried. Her second husband died. She came back to Massachusetts and married Sheldon again. And she returned to Australia with him in 1922. Again, Phineas was not active in sports or gambling. He was in the cigar business with his father. He was a well-known gentleman in Sydney. He was guest of honor at 4th of July dinners at the U.S. Consulate. Ironically, he died of bronchitis in Sydney on July 4th, 1900. He is also buried in the company plot. Excuse me, family plot. Shortly after, Amelia, his wife, went into apoplectic coma, which lasted for 2 months, and she died on September 28, 1900. For many years, Memorial Day services were held every year at the Solomon family plot in Waverley Cemetery, attended by Australian and American dignitaries, American Legion Post No. 1, Uniformed Honor Guard of the Civil War Round Table of Australia, descendants of the Solomons, and the general public. The ceremony memorialized all deceased American veterans of all wars who were buried in Australia. Currently, the Melbourne members of the American Civil War Round Table of Australia, along with the U.S. Consulate in Melbourne and the American veterans there, continue to host a Memorial Day service at the Melbourne Shrine of Remembrance each May. conclusion, the Solomon brothers, patriots in an adopted country, certainly led interesting lives from their service in the Civil War to their exploits in Australia. Though the family history is at times contradictory, it is full of colorful tales of jumping ship, arriving in Australia in a barrel, adopting a new name, business successes, and famous exploits in the world of athletics. Major Parker, who has since passed away, Mr. Phonander, Mr. Crompton, and Mr. Simpson deserve our highest commendation and gratitude for their intrepid efforts on behalf of our American veterans. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
Yes, sir.
We'll take a few questions and then we will call for the raffle ticket.
So it sounds like there were a lot of Civil War vets who went to Australia. Was the big draw the gold, or was there something else over there?
The big draw was the gold. That's the big reason for, that's why everybody moved to California in 1849. You have a gold rush, people show up. One of my favorite movies is Support Your Local Sheriff. If you remember from 1969, and that poor sheriff was just trying to get to Australia and he never made it. James Garner, by the way, great guy.
Hello. Oh, that's a little loud. Excellent presentation. It was amazing. I had a question about the brain injury that Henry suffered from. Do you believe it actually happened at Williamsburg due to your evidence? I know you mentioned that there was no official military record, but do you believe like the military was covering it up due to any insurance policies not wanting to give the funding to the family?
No, I don't believe that was the case at all. I think that it was a fabrication. I think perhaps he was again struck down with heat stroke, and I think perhaps at that time his brain started acting up a little bit, and they would rather have it be known as being a war-related injury.
Thank you.
Other questions?
If I could, I'd just bring up one more point that I meant to bring up before. When we talked about how much money the city spent, in 1863, in the winter of 1863, quite a few of the men in Company K of the 10th Mass re-enlisted for 3 years. When they re-enlisted, they got $325 bonus from the city of Westfield, and they got $300 from the federal government, and 35 days furlough to go back home. So in those days, that was a pretty good amount. You could buy a nice small farm for $625. Or you could buy a farm in the war.
People from Westfield that went to the Civil War, how many casualties were there altogether?
I believe there were 66 people killed in the war. That's killed in battle. When we take into account the accidental deaths and disease, it would be much higher. But I believe, that's another point that I didn't make in my presentation. Andrew Campbell, the fellow who was supposed to be the first lieutenant at the beginning of the 10th Mass, he went on during the war to become a captain in the 46th Massachusetts, and he is the person who posed for the statue across the green. Just these things come to you after you sign. All right, I think we are set. How about a nice round of applause for Ed? Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Excellent presentation. And I just want to say thank you for coming tonight. It is a miserable night. You know, today the roads were fabulous. They had dried out. Everything was great. And then I'm watching the weather, and I get this weather relay alert that, oh, the squalls are coming right at 5 o'clock. Figures that would be. But you know what? The hardy Westfielders are here, and I so appreciate it. Give yourselves a round. Thank you so much for coming. We are working really hard with the Westfield 350 Committee. The volunteers have done a phenomenal job putting this series together. This is our 4th lecture now, I believe, of the series. We have a total of 14, so we have 10 more to go, so keep coming. The next one, as you heard earlier, will be at Denver Auditorium on Wednesday, February 13th, I believe it is, which will be on the watershed, so it will be really interesting. You know, we have a real partnership with Westfield State University, and so we've been very grateful to their desire to want to be a part of this, and also opening up their facilities to us. They will have a little reception after each of the lectures as well, so make sure you come up to those. And there'll be plenty of parking, I'm sure, on campus. There shouldn't be a problem with that, and I'm getting a thumbs up from our Westfield State host. By the way, I do want to introduce tonight, there's about 150 of you here tonight, which I was thrilled to see. I was doing a head count during the lecture. But we have a contingent from Westfield State University. There's a class with Professor Vanessa Deanna, and I believe the name of the course is Westfield in 350, is that right? Westfield in 350. And they're actually using our book as their textbook, the book that we have produced, that many of you now own. And we're thrilled to have them, but to the students, this is your home now for some of you for the 4 years that you'll be here. And we are thrilled that you are here and learning more about your city. We really, really appreciate it. A couple of just quick thank yous, and then we're going to have a reception right through those doors, as we always do. Certainly want to say thank you to the First Congregational Church. How about a nice round of applause for them? They open up their gates, and they're so gracious in welcoming us. I just love this environment. To me, it's what Westfield's all about. It's the old town hall, or the depths of the cold, hard winter. We're coming out to find our neighbors and just say hi to one another and learn a little bit about our city. So it's been really, really fabulous from that standpoint. A couple of things. As I mentioned, the book, if you do not have this yet, we are more than halfway on our sales. We've sold more than half of the ones that we have. So once they're done, there will not be a reprinting. So if you don't have one, make sure you get them. They are available here tonight. They will be available at every lecture. They're at the Westfield News on School Street, and also up on the 3rd floor of Westfield City Hall, where my little desk is with the Westfield 350. The other thing that's brand new, and we just received them this week, and I'm very, very excited about this, we have produced a commemorative coin. Now, it's actually two-sided. It has the same logo, City of Westfield 1669 to 2019. A great commemorative piece. It's just the pewter finish on the back, but painted on the front. These are only $10. So we're only making a couple of dollars ourselves off of them. So we've tried to keep them as inexpensive as possible, but we do have them at each table at either end. And again, we will have these with us at each lecture if you're looking for them. And again, these will be available at the Westfield News. Westfield News is our depository. We've been really grateful to Patrick Berry, who's the owner of the newspaper, who gives us storage space. So if you need t-shirts, whatever we have left, hats, scarves, all of that type of stuff, you'll find it there. So the only other thing that I do want to mention is our race series. Our second race will be coming up on Sunday, February 10th. It's an indoor track meet at Westfield State.
So if you want to get the jacket, again, it's 5 out of the 7 races that you need to be a part of. We also found a glove back in the, so if anybody was coming in from that side, black glove. Do I have any takers? There must be somebody here that's missing a glove. It's cold outside and you do not want to lose your glove. Aha, we have a winner. Yes. I love the old lost and found part of it. And we have a raffle. So I'm going to turn it over to Cindy.
I'm getting the prizes. While I'm getting the prizes, could we have the volunteers from the 350th committee just stand up or raise their hand? I've neglected to thank them each week. They're all standing in the back. Thank you so much. And to Vanessa Diana, whose brainchild this whole lecture series was. Really fabulous, so thank you.
One last point that I also wanted to make. We are videotaping all of these. Our videographer is Pete Coles. He's up in the balcony. How about a nice round of applause for him? Pete, we thank you very much for the work you've been doing. All of these videos are on our website. So if you go to westfield350.org, this will be the 4th one. It'll be up in a couple of days. He has to do some editing work to get all the slides put in. But for yourself, if you want to go back and watch it, or if you want to get the word out to anyone who couldn't be here, it's a phenomenal resource, and we have been really committed to ensuring that this celebration be as much about education and learning about our city as it is about parades and fireworks and things of that nature. So we thank Pete for that. So make sure you get to that. Also, if any of you were at first night or wanted to learn or see what happened at the first night ceremony on December 31st, that video is also on, covering the parade and everything from the start of it. If there is nothing else to come before our group, we have a wonderful reception, so we would invite you there. But again, thank you so much for coming tonight. I really, really appreciate it. Safe travels home. We'll see you on February 13th at Westfield State University, Denver Auditorium.